The diner's neon sign flickered, casting a red glow over the cracked pavement outside. I sat in my usual booth, the one by the window, watching rain streak down the glass as the weight of the past pressed against my chest. 10 years ago, I swore I'd never let Ethan Caldwell back into my life, not after what he did. Back in high school, Ethan was the golden boy of Willow Creek High quarterback, prom king, the kind of guy who could charm anyone with a smile that hit a cruel streak. I was the quiet kid, the one with braces and a sketchbook, who never quite fit in. Being openly gay in a small Ohio town in 2015 wasn't exactly a recipe for popularity, and Ethan made sure I knew it. Every day for 2 years, he'd shove me against lockers, mock my voice in the halls, and rally his friends to laugh when I passed by. "Faggot," he'd whisper, just loud enough for me to hear, his voice dripping with venom. By senior year, I'd learned to walk with my head down, to make myself invisible. But you don't forget pain like that. It carves itself into your bones. Now, here I was, 28 years old, owner of the only decent coffee shop in town, and Ethan Caldwell was standing at my counter, holding a resume like it was a lifeline. His broad shoulders were hunched, his once perfect hair thinning, and those piercing blue eyes that used to haunt me looked desperate. "Please, Noah," he said, his voice low, almost breaking. "I need this job." I leaned back in the booth, my fingers tracing the edge of my coffee mug. The irony wasn't lost on me. The boy who'd made my life hell was now begging for my help. Part of me wanted to laugh, to tell him to get out and feel the sting of rejection like I had. But another part that had spent years rebuilding myself, proving I was more than the kid he broke, wanted to know why. Why was he here? What had happened to the untouchable Ethan Caldwell? "You've got 5 minutes," I said, my voice steady but cold. "Convince me." He sat down, the vinyl seat creaking under his weight. His hands trembled as he slid the resume across the table. "I know I don't deserve this," he started, "but I'm not that guy anymore. I've been through some things. I need a fresh start." I glanced at the resume. Ethan Caldwell, 29, no college degree, a string of odd jobs: construction, bartending, a stint at a warehouse. The golden boy had fallen far. "Why here?" I asked, folding my arms. "Why my shop?" He swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. "Because you're the only one in town who might give me a chance. I know what I did to you, Noah. I know I was a monster. I can't take it back, but I'm a skingno. I'm begging for a shot to make things right." I wanted to believe he was lying, that this was some cruel trick. But the way his voice cracked, the way his eyes darted away like he was ashamed, it felt real. Too real. I'd spent years hating him, building a life to prove he hadn't destroyed me. I'd opened Brew Haven, turned it into the heart of Willow Creek, a place where people like me, people who'd ever felt like outsiders, could feel safe. And now, the one person who'd made me feel the most unsafe was asking for a piece of that sanctuary. "Why should I trust you?" I asked, leaning forward. "After everything." He didn't answer right away. His gaze dropped to the table, and for a moment, I saw the boy from high school, not the bully, but the one I'd caught staring at me in art class, the one who'd linger a second too long before turning away. There was something in his eyes back then, something I couldn't name. Now, it was clearer: regret. "I don't expect you to trust me," he said finally. "I just need a chance to prove I'm not that person anymore. I'll do anything: sweep floors, wash dishes, whatever you need." I studied him, searching for the catch. People don't change that much, do they? But then I thought of myself, how I wasn't the scared kid anymore, how I'd clawed my way out of that darkness. Maybe Ethan had his own demons to fight. Maybe he was trying to claw his way out too. "I'll think about it," I said, standing up. Come back tomorrow. He nodded, his shoulders slumping with relief or defeat, I couldn't tell which. As he walked out into the rain, I sat back down, my mind racing. Hiring him would mean seeing him every day, reliving those memories. But turning him away, that felt like letting the past win. I didn't know what I'd decide. But one thing was clear, Ethan Caldwell wasn't the only one facing a choice. The diner grew quieter as the night deepened, and I stared at the resume he'd left behind. His name, scrawled in black ink, felt like a challenge. A challenge to forgive, to forget, or to finally take back the power he'd stolen from me all those years ago. The next morning, Brewhaven buzzed with its usual rhythm, espresso machines hissing, customers chatting, and the smell of fresh pastries filling the air. I stood behind the counter, wiping down the espresso machine, trying to focus on the routine. But my mind was elsewhere, stuck on Ethan's pleading voice from last night. I hadn't slept well. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him, those taunts in the hallway, the way he'd smirk when I tripped over my own feet trying to escape. But I also saw the man in the diner, broken and humbled, his hands shaking as he handed me his resume. I didn't know which version of Ethan was real, or if both could coexist. The bell above the door chimed, and there he was, right on time. He wore a faded flannel shirt, his hair damp from the morning drizzle. He didn't approach the counter right away. He just stood there, scanning the shop like he was stepping into a lion's den. I caught his eye and nodded toward the back office. Let's talk. In the cramped office, surrounded by boxes of coffee beans and paperwork, I sat behind my desk, feeling the weight of control for the first time. Ethan took the chair across from me, his posture stiff, like he was waiting for a verdict. I've thought about it, I said, keeping my tone even. I'm not saying I trust you, because I don't. But I'm short-staffed, and I'm willing to take a risk. You can start as a barista part-time, minimum wage. You mess up, you're out. His face lit up, a flicker of hope breaking through the exhaustion. Thank you, Noah. I won't let you down. Don't thank me yet, I said, leaning forward. This isn't charity. You'll be watched by me, by my staff, by every regular who knows this place is my heart and soul. You step out of line, and you're done. He nodded, his jaw tight. I understand. I'll prove it to you. I handed him an apron and a training manual. Start tomorrow. Be here at 6 a.m. sharp. As he left, I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Hiring him was a gamble, but it also felt like reclaiming something, maybe not forgiveness, but power. The power to decide who he was now, not who he'd been. The next few days were tense. Ethan showed up early, learned fast, and kept his head down. He was clumsy with the espresso machine at first, but he listened, took notes, and didn't complain when I corrected him. My staff, especially Mia, my assistant manager who knew my high school history, watched him like hawks. You sure about this, Noah? She asked one evening as we closed up. He's got a lot to make up for. I'm not sure about anything, I admitted, but I want to see if he's for real. By the end of the week, Ethan was handling the morning rush without much trouble. Customers liked his charm, the same charm that had once been weaponized against me. I kept my distance, observing, waiting for the moment he'd slip back into the old Ethan. But he didn't. He smiled. He worked. He stayed quiet. Too quiet. Maybe. One afternoon, during a lull, I caught him staring at a photo on the Walla Pride flag pinned up during last year's festival, surrounded by Polaroids of smiling customers. He didn't say anything, just looked at it with an expression I couldn't read. Curiosity. Guilt. I didn't ask. That night, as I locked up, I found a note slipped under the office door. In Ethan's messy handwriting, it read, I know I don't deserve this chance. I'm trying to be better. Thank you. I crumpled it up, unsure whether to feel moved or manipulated. The past was a shadow that lingered, and I wasn't ready to let it go. But something was shifting. Watching Ethan work, seeing him interact with customers, some of whom were openly queer, just like me, made me wonder. Had he really changed? Or was this just a performance? The answer felt closer, but it was still out of reach, and I wasn't sure I wanted to find it. Weeks passed, and Ethan became a fixture at Brewhaven. He wasn't just a barista now. He was good at it. Customers started asking for him by name, charmed by his easy smile and the way he remembered their orders. I hated admitting it, but he was an asset. Still, every time I saw him laugh with a customer, a part of me braced for the other shoe to drop. One morning, during a slow shift, I overheard him talking to Mia. She was grilling him about his past, her arms crossed, her tone sharp. "So, what's your deal, Ethan? Why'd you come back to Willow Creek? Thought you'd be off playing football somewhere." Ethan's smile faded. "Life doesn't always go the way you plan," he said, wiping down the counter. "I messed up a lot. Lost a lot. I'm just trying to start over." Mia raised an eyebrow but didn't push further. I pretended not to listen, but his words stuck with me. Lost a lot. What did that mean? I wanted to ask, but every time I thought about confronting him, the memories of high school flooded back: his laughter, the jeers, the way my stomach twisted every time I saw him coming. That afternoon, we got slammed with a lunch rush. Ethan handled it like a pro, steaming milk and pulling shots with a focus I hadn't expected. When a customer spilled their latte and apologized profusely, Ethan just smiled, mopped it up, and made them a new one on the house. "No big deal," he said, and the customer left beaming. I watched from the back, my arms crossed. "He's good," Mia said, sidling up next to me. "Too good, maybe. You think he's playing us?" "I don't know," I said, "but I'm keeping my eyes open." Later that day, I found myself alone with Ethan as we restocked the pastry case. The shop was quiet, just the hum of the fridge and the faint jazz playing over the speakers. I don't know why I spoke up, Mabe. I was tired of the tension, but I did. "Why did you come back?" I asked, my voice low. "You could have gone anywhere. Why here?" He froze, a scone halfway to the tray. For a moment, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he set the scone down and turned to face me. "I didn't have anywhere else to go," he said. "After high school, I got a football scholarship, but I blew it. Partied too much, got injured, dropped out. Then, things got worse." "Worse how?" I pressed, not sure I wanted to know. He hesitated, his eyes searching mine like he was weighing how much to say. "Family stuff. Bad choices. I ended up in a dark place. Noah. Coming back here, it was my last shot." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to dig deeper, to demand details, but another part wanted to keep the wall between us. "That doesn't erase what you did," I said finally. "I know," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't expect it to." The rest of the shift passed in silence. That night, as I walked home through Willow Creek's quiet streets, I couldn't shake the conversation. Ethan's words felt like a crack in the armor I'd built around my memories of him. He wasn't the untouchable bully anymore, but he wasn't a stranger either. He was something in between, and that scared me more than I wanted to admit. The next day, a regular trans woman named Lena, who always ordered a lavender latte, came in during Ethan's shift. I watched closely, ready to step in if he said or did anything wrong. But he didn't. He made her drink with care, chatted with her about the weather, and even complimented her scarf. Lena left smiling, and I felt a pang of something I couldn't name. relief, hope, or maybe just confusion. As the weeks went on, Ethan kept showing up, kept working hard, kept proving himself. But the past wasn't gone. It lived in the way I flinched when he moved too fast, in the way my chest tightened when he laughed. I wasn't ready to forgive him, but I was starting to see him not the bully, not the golden boy, but the man trying to rebuild from the ashes of his own mistakes. The air in Willow Creek turned crisp as autumn settled in, painting the town in shades of orange and gold. Brewhaven became a haven for locals escaping the chill, and Ethan, to my surprise, fit seamlessly into the rhythm. He'd learned the quirks of our finicky espresso machine, memorized the regulars' orders, and even started experimenting with latte art. Customers loved him, and I hated how much that unsettled me. One evening, as we closed up, Ethan stayed late to help scrub the floors. I was in the office, balancing the books, when I heard him humming a soft, familiar tune from high school, one we'd both heard at prom while I stood alone in a corner. The sound hit me like a punch, dragging me back to those years of hiding. I stepped out, ready to snap at him, but stopped when I saw him on his knees, scrubbing diligently, his face lost in thought. "You don't have to stay," I said, my voice sharper than I meant. He looked up, startled. "I don't mind. I like the quiet." I didn't know how to respond, so I grabbed a rag and started wiping down tables, working in silence beside him. The tension between us was palpable, a mix of old wounds and new questions. Finally, he spoke. "Noah, can I ask you something?" I braced myself. "What?" "Why'd you give me this job? After everything?" I stopped wiping, my grip tightening on the rag. "Honestly, I'm still figuring that out. Maybe I wanted to see if you'd screw it up. Maybe I wanted to prove I'm not the kid you used to push around." He nodded, like he'd expected that. "I don't blame you. If I were you, I wouldn't have hired me." "Then why are you here?" I asked, my voice rising. "Why put yourself through this?" "Because I owe you," he said, his eyes locking onto mine. "Not just for the job. For everything. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I'm trying to be someone who doesn't hurt people anymore." His words hung in the air, heavy and raw. I wanted to believe him, but trust was a fragile thing, and mine had been shattered too many times. "Words are cheap, Ethan," I said. "Prove it." "I will," he said, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of the determination that had made him a star athlete. But this wasn't about touchdowns or popularity. This was about something deeper, something I wasn't sure either of us understood yet. The next day, a local artist came in to set up a small exhibit in the shop, paintings celebrating queer identities, vibrant and bold. I'd organized it months ago, a way to make Brewhaven a safe space for everyone. Ethan helped hang the artwork, carefully aligning each frame. When a customer asked about the exhibit, he didn't hesitate. "It's about celebrating who you are," he said, his voice steady. "Noah's made this place special for that." I overheard him from the counter, and my chest tightened. Was he sincere, or was this just him playing the part? I didn't know, but I couldn't deny the warmth spreading through the shop, the way customers lingered, feeling seen and welcomed. That night, Ethan stayed late again. As we locked up, he turned to me. "I meant what I said earlier. I'm trying, Noah. Not just for you, but for me. I don't want to be the guy I was." I didn't respond, but his words stayed with me as I walked home. The line between who he was and who he was becoming was blurring, and I wasn't sure how to feel about it. All I knew was that Brewhaven wasn't just my sanctuary, Anna Maria was becoming his, too, and that scared me as much as it intrigued me. Winter crept into Willow Creek, dusting the streets with snow and filling Brewhaven with the scent of cinnamon and peppermint mochas. Ethan had been working for me for 3 months now, and the shop felt different with him in it, not better or worse. Just different. He was reliable, respectful, even kind, but I still kept him at arm's length, afraid to let my guard down. One morning, a regular named Marcus, a drag performer who lit up the shop with his energy, came in for his usual cappuccino. Ethan greeted him with a grin, already steaming the milk. "You performing this weekend, Marcus?" he asked. "Yeah, at the Velvet Room," Marcus said, adjusting his scarf. "You should come see the show." Ethan hesitated, then smiled. "Maybe I will." I watched from the counter, my stomach twisting. Was he just being polite? Or was he actually open to stepping into a space like that? The Ethan I knew in high school would have sneered at the idea. This Ethan, I wasn't sure. That weekend, I went to the Velvet Room myself, partly to support Marcus, partly out of curiosity. The club was packed, the air thick with glitter and laughter. Halfway through the show, I spotted Ethan in the crowd, standing near the back, clapping along with everyone else. He looked out of place, but not uncomfortable, his face lit up by the stage lights. When our eyes met, he gave a small wave, almost shy. After the show, I found him outside, leaning against the brick wall, his breath visible in the cold air. "Didn't expect to see you here," I said, zipping up my jacket. "Didn't expect to be here," he admitted. "But Marcus invited me, and, I don't know. I wanted to understand." "Understand what?" I asked, my tone sharper than I intended. He shoved his hands in his pockets. "What it's like to be around people who are free, who aren't afraid to be themselves." His words caught me off guard. I wanted to push back, to remind him of the years he spent making me afraid to be myself. But something in his voice stopped me. It was raw, unguarded, like he was peeling back a layer he'd kept hidden. "Why do you care?" I asked, softer this time. He looked away, his jaw working. "Because I wasn't free back then either," he said quietly. "I was scared. Noah. Scared of what people would think, what my dad would say. I took it out on you, and I hate myself for it." The admission hit me like a wave. I'd spent years seeing Ethan as the villain, the untouchable bully who thrived on my pain. But now, standing in the snow outside a queer club, he was just a man, flawed and searching. I didn't know if I could forgive him, but for the first time, I saw a glimpse of why he'd done it. "I don't know what to do with that," I said honestly. "You hurt me, Ethan. You made me hate myself." "I know," he said, his voice breaking. "And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make up for it, if you'll let me." We stood there, the snow falling softly around us, and I felt something shift. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a crack in the wall I'd built. Maybe Ethan wasn't the only one who needed to heal. Maybe I did too. The next day at the shop, things felt different. Lighter, somehow. Ethan didn't bring up the night before, and neither did I, but there was a quiet understanding between us. As he handed me a fresh batch of scones, our fingers brushed, and for a moment, I didn't pull away. Spring arrived in Willow Creek, bringing longer days and a flood of new customers to Brew Haven. The shop was thriving, and so, it seemed, was Ethan. He'd become more than just a barista. He was part of the team, part of the community I'd built. But every time I caught myself smiling at his jokes or lingering when we talked, I felt a pang of guilt. Was I betraying my younger self by letting him in? One afternoon, we hosted a poetry slam, a monthly event that drew a diverse crowd. Ethan volunteered to help set up, moving tables and arranging chairs with a quiet efficiency. When a young poet, barely 16, took the mic and read a piece about coming out, the room fell silent. The kid's voice shook, but their words were raw and powerful. I glanced at Ethan, who was standing by the counter, his eyes fixed on the poet, his expression unreadable. After the event, as we cleaned up, Ethan approached me. "That kid, they reminded me of you," he said softly. "Back in high school, you were always so brave." Brave, I scoffed, stacking chairs. I was terrified. "Maybe," he said, "but you never hid who you were." "Not really." I envied that. His words hit me hard. Envy. The idea that Ethan Caldwell, the golden boy, had envied me was almost laughable. But the way he said it, with such quiet sincerity, made me pause. "You had a funny way of showing it," I said, my voice tight. "I know," he said, looking down. "I was a coward, Noah. I was so afraid of what I felt, what I was, that I lashed out at you to keep it buried." I froze, my heart pounding. "What you felt?" I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. He took a deep breath, his hands clenching at his sides. "I was attracted to you," he said, the words rushing out like a confession. "Back in high school, I didn't know how to deal with it. So I hurt you instead. It was easier to hate you than to face myself." The world seemed to tilt. All those years, I'd thought his cruelty was random, a product of small-town prejudice. But this was something else. Something deeper, messier, more human. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Because I'm tired of running from it," he said. "I'm tired of pretending I'm someone I'm not. I'm gay, Noah. I've known it for years, but I couldn't admit it until I came back here. Until I saw you." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to scream, to tell him he didn't get to drop this bombshell and expect absolution. But another part, the part that had seen him change, seen him try, wanted to believe him, wanted to believe in him. "I need time," I said finally, turning away. I can't process this right now." He nodded, his face a mix of relief and fear. "I understand. I'll wait." That night, I couldn't sleep. Ethan's confession replayed in my mind, each word a puzzle piece I didn't know how to fit. He'd been my tormentor, but he'd also been a scared kid, trapped in his own prison. Could I hate him for that? Could I forgive him? And why did my heart race when I thought about him now? Not with anger, but with something else. Summer brought a heat wave to Willow Creek, and Brew Haven became a refuge for locals seeking iced coffee and air conditioning. Ethan and I worked side by side, our interactions careful but charged with something new. His confession hung between us, unspoken but ever present, like a melody neither of us could name. I started noticing things about him: the way his hands moved when he poured latte art, the way he listened to customers with genuine care, the way his laugh softened when he caught my eye. It scared me. How much I didn't hate him anymore. How much I might actually care. One evening, we stayed late to prep for a big order. The shop was quiet. The only sound the hum of the fridge and the occasional car passing outside. Ethan was restocking cups, and I was wiping down the counter, when he spoke up. "Noah, can we talk?" he asked, his voice tentative. I nodded, bracing myself. "Okay." He set the cups down and turned to face me. "I know I dropped a lot on you. I don't expect you to feel the same, or to forgive me. But I need you to know I'm not that kid anymore. I'm trying to be someone you can trust." I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the weight he carried: the guilt, the hope, the fear. "Ethan," I said, my voice steady, "I don't know if I can ever fully forgive you. But I see you trying. And I don't hate you anymore." His eyes softened, a flicker of relief passing through them. "That's more than I deserve." We stood there, the space between us shrinking. I don't know who moved first, But suddenly we were closer, his breath warm against my skin. My heart pounded, a mix of fear and longing. I wanted to pull away, to protect myself, but I didn't. Instead, I let my hand rest on his arm, feeling the warmth of him under my fingers. "Noah," he whispered, his voice raw. "Is this okay?" I nodded, unable to speak. And then, slowly, he leaned in, and our lips met a soft, tentative kiss that felt like a question and an answer all at once. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a start. The next few weeks were a blur of stolen glances and quiet moments. We didn't define what was happening between us, but it was there, growing in the spaces between our words. Brewhaven became a place where we both healed, not just from the past, but from the fear of who we could be. One day, Lena came in, her lavender latte in hand, and gave me a knowing smile. "You and Ethan, huh?" she said, winking. "Didn't see that coming." I laughed, my cheeks flushing. Neither did I. As summer faded, I realized something. I wasn't just giving Ethan a chance. I was giving myself one. A chance to let go, to love, to believe that people could change. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't perfect, but it was real. By fall, Brewhaven was more than a coffee shop. It was a symbol of second chances. Ethan and I were navigating something new, something fragile but beautiful. We weren't just boss and employee anymore, or victim and bully. We were two people learning to trust, to love, to heal. One evening, we hosted a community event, a fundraiser for a local LGBTQ youth center. The shop was packed, with music, laughter, and the clink of mugs filling the air. Ethan worked the counter, his smile brighter than I'd ever seen it. When a teenager approached him, nervous and clutching a flyer for the youth center, Ethan listened, nodding, and slipped an extra cookie onto their plate. I watched from across the room, my heart swelling. This was the Ethan I'd hoped for, the one who showed up, who cared, who was trying every day to be better. When the event ended, we stayed late to clean up, just the two of us. "Noah," he said, as we stacked chairs, "I never thought I'd be here. Not just in this shop, but with you. Happy." I smiled, setting a chair down. "I didn't either. But I'm glad you are." He stepped closer, his hand brushing mine. "I love you," he said, the words soft but certain. "I don't expect you to say it back, but I needed you to know." My breath caught. Love was a big word, heavy with history and hope. I thought of the boy I'd been, the one who'd hated Ethan, and the man I was now, standing in a place I'd built, with someone who'd hurt me but was trying to make it right. "I love you too," I said, surprising myself. The words felt right, like a weight lifting. We kissed, slow and sure, in the middle of Brewhaven, surrounded by the life we'd created together. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was messy, complicated, real. But it was ours. As we locked up, I looked at the pride flag on the wall, the one Ethan had stared at months ago. It wasn't just a symbol of who I was. It was a reminder of who we could be: flawed, human, but capable of change. Ethan had come begging for a job, but he'd given me something more, a chance to let go of the past, to embrace a future where redemption was possible, and love was worth the risk.